Okay, for those of you that don't know it, I've got this flight simulator set up here in my home, and it's very realistic. It's a Microsoft flight simulator, but I bought all this extra equipment that I use to actually fly the plane. And as you can see now, I'm officially a captain. My son bought this for me for Christmas, so I can now say that I'm a full-fledged captain. And if I wanted to actually talk to air traffic controller, I can hook this headset up, and the computer program will actually let me talk to the tower ground control, and I can take my flight clearance, and they give me orders as to what altitudes to fly and things of that nature. So I'm not going to use this for right now, but I normally would listen to the air traffic control as I'm flying. Give you some idea of what we've got. The keyboard is just to turn the computer on. It's very seldom used for anything. All the flying is done basically with this equipment, and also with a pair of rudder pedals that are at my feet that you can't see. So to go through the equipment very quickly, this is called the yoke. This is what you actually fly the plane with when you're in multi-engine. And this controls the roll with the ailerons. Backward and forward controls the elevator up and down. And the pedals down below control turning left to right yaw. There's some more buttons on here, but I'll get to those in a second. Over here is the power quadrant, the throttles. Now I've got this set up for 2 engines. I'll show you the airplane that I'm flying in a bit. But I've got it set up for 2 engines, but I've got levers that I can put in for 4 engines if I need it. So here are my throttles. Here's the speed brake, which lets me slow down. Here is how we control the elevator trim to get the airplane where it'll fly by itself. There's the gear handle right here, the flap handle. Over here is the autopilot. I'm sorry, not the autopilot. Over here is the parking brake. And then these buttons here control the autopilot. So they actually control the same thing as these buttons right here. And there's also buttons to turn on pitot heat lights, to look at the various engine parts if I want to look at them, etc. And then there's on the behind the yoke, there are more buttons to turn on the batteries, turn on the instruments. There's a switch here that I can start one engine at a time or both engines. And all this is controlled so that it does exactly the same as what would happen using the software. Okay, further up above here, I don't know if you can see it, but these are models of the airplanes that I flew in the Air Force. And these are all solid mahogany, made-to-scale airplanes. They're pretty expensive, but they're really well produced. And you probably can't see the C5 over here where my hand is. But the C5 is the only one that's not up to scale. The C5 was so big I would have had to make another 2 inches. And I already paid $500 just for that one plane. They wanted a couple hundred more just to add 2 inches. So I said, forget about it. Over to the right, I've got a monitor that I can follow my flight path on a different map. And as you can see, I've got a TV screen where I can watch football games or whatever while I'm flying. So when I fly, I take off, put it on autopilot. Like, for instance, right now, I'm actually flying a mission from Moscow to where am I going? To Poland, to Warsaw, and we're about let's see, we're in Belarus, and about maybe 200 miles from Minsk. But I can follow all this as I'm flying. Besides these throttles and this yoke to control an airplane, if I'm going to fly a fighter plane or a single engine jet, I've got this yoke or joystick here. So I turn off the yoke and use the joystick for control of the aircraft. And then there's another single throttle over here that I could use for the throttle for just a single engine aircraft. So I can be using the yoke with the joystick with my right hand to fly it, and my left hand for the power. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. My computer is down here. You can't see it. But at any rate, I can control a lot of things. For instance, right now we're in cockpit view looking out as if we were going to land. If I want, I can switch to the outside view and see where we're going. The actual kind of a tourist view. Give you some idea of the plane that I'm flying. This is what's called a Cessna. A Cessna. What is it called? Longitude. And it's a executive jet. It's a 14-passenger executive jet, 2 engines. Really a fast airplane. It's got a range of 8 or 9 hours of fuel at 500 miles an hour, so I can fly pretty much anywhere I want to fly. And what I do is I actually plan the flight plan. I put the flight plan in the computer by actually manipulating these buttons here. Then when I go on autopilot, the aircraft will actually follow the flight plan that I put in there. It'll even take me to the approach that I plug in and take me down the glide path until minimums, and then I punch it off of autopilot and then land it manually. Although the autopilot could actually land it. Might be a little bumpy. Probably not as bumpy as me, but at any rate, it's all fully automated. And when I fly like I am right now from Moscow to Warsaw, I've been flying about an hour and a half. And I'm on autopilot, so I can do anything I want to do. I can wander around. I can go in, have a cup of coffee. Or actually, the best thing to do is I call my wife and say, Sandra, you're the hostess, flight attendant. How about bringing the cup of coffee to the cockpit? And she tells me no. At any rate, sometimes missions will take 5 or 6 hours, so I'll put it on autopilot, and I'll grab my banjo, which is right over here. I grab my banjo, and while I'm up here flying, play the banjo, practice a little bit, because I really need it. At any rate, that's kind of what I do here. So again, to show you the different views, that's the outside view. I can zoom in on this plane, make it bigger so you can see it better. This is Cessna Citation Longitude, 14 passengers. Cost you a couple $1,000,000 if you wanted to fly that airplane. Or I can go to the instrument panel by itself, where I can see the instruments big, or I can switch to the cockpit view, where I can actually look out the window so I can see the landing. And I can even maneuver to look out the right window or look out the left window if I want. Or up and down, whatever. It's a fantastic system. I hope that gave you some idea of what I do here while I'm not playing the banjo and my back keeps me from playing with the band. So I'm going to sign off right now. Hope you had a pleasant flight.